Put the bunny back in the box.
I knew you was a punk, and I was right. You been playing us all along. You a free man.
I said, put the bunny back in the box.
Welcome back to Thinking Critical. This is Wes, and today we're going to talk about one of the biggest misnomers in comics. Obviously, there are a lot of true statements out there. Never start a land war in Asia. Never fight in Russia during the winter. But there's a false idea out there that you cannot successfully crowdfund a comic book and get big numbers without a big YouTube channel or some other type of enormous social media presence. And I have somebody with me today that bucks the trend and can tell you that in fact is not true. Although he does have a YouTube channel, but it is rather small in comparison to some of his competitors that are doing comic book crowdfunding. Tim Lim, the man behind Kamen America, USAGI, Black Ops. How you doing, Tim?
I'm doing well. Thank you very much, Wes. And Soul Finder, I was the artist for Doug Ernst's book as well.
Absolutely. So you've been very busy. Obviously, you and your creative partner, Mark Pellegrini, are essentially machines. You just launched your Kamen America Volume 3 Kickstarter campaign. It's already doing very well. By the time this video goes up, you'll be well past 60,000. And you had a little treat there for people. I don't think everyone knew that they were going to be getting a hardcover edition at no extra charge on this campaign.
No, they didn't. And that was something that we kept a surprise until the very end. But that's something that we're glad to offer, at least moving forward. We're able to negotiate a very good price on. So what we're planning on doing, again, for the foreseeable future, is to offer the same quality of content, 64 pages, but in hardcover at no extra cost to the readers. So instead of paying $10 plus $5 shipping for softcover graphic novel, you're going to be getting a hardcover one by default.
Now, we're going to talk a little bit more about your campaign later in the episode, because I do want to talk to you about it. But you obviously have a social media presence. You built up a following there, but you never really went out and went hard at the YouTube thing. But you've seen your sales rise over time, specifically with Kamen America. I think you've also seen the sales numbers for USAGI Black Ops go up as well. Maybe not to quite to that extent. What is the secret sauce that you and Mark do that keeps the new customers coming in without that big platform like a YouTube channel?
The secret, I think, is to treat it as a marathon and not a sprint. And part of that is the durability and the stamina that you have that's in the work. Our number one key piece of advice to anyone who is crowdfunding a book is, in the beginning, you might be discouraged because you're not getting the numbers that you want or the backers are not coming in. But let's say you get 10 backers. Those 10 backers should get the best quality product possible, so that what happens is the next go around they tell other people. So not only do you keep those 10 people, but you up it by a set quantity. And by that kind of word of mouth, that's all going to be dependent on the book itself. So a lot of factors go into that. How do you get people initially to take a look at it? And then once they get it, what they think of it. These are two things that you actually have full control over. We can talk a little bit more individually about the details that go into that, but there are certain things that you can do to not only help with your presentation, but also with the final product, making sure that you're going to have them come back for more and that they're going to recommend it to other people.
Now, obviously, you are an established artist. Before you started doing comic book work, you were doing commercial artwork. You're doing T-shirt designs, things like that. It felt, it looks like it transitioned over well to comics and, visual storytelling medium. Obviously, Mark is a very good writer. As far as the social media presence, obviously, like I said, you have been on, Twitter, other social media apps. I know you have like the Deviant Art page, things like that. Now, a lot of people, there's a lot of negativity. Obviously, there's negativity everywhere with social media. One of the things I've seen that you and Mark do now, you and Mark absolutely go out there and you express your opinions. It feels like not always a filter on there, and I like that about you. But you never really dive into those like Twitter beefs and things like that that could probably garner a few more eyes on you. But in the end, maybe it's for the wrong reasons. You know what I mean?
No, I completely understand. So I feel like that there's a way of getting an opinion out there and not being completely nasty about it, especially in terms of personal conflicts with other people. And so I think there may have been a few times that we've fallen short, but I think by and large, we've tried to make sure that we tread water carefully and that we're polite. Anything that we do is kind of tongue in cheek or is done in a way that's sort of playful. So it's kind of like, hey, it's just an opinion. As we have shifted the last year from a less political climate, I think that this becomes more and more imperative because, especially for books like Kamen America, it's a patriotic character. I don't think that's a political statement at all. I think that for America, especially, it's no more political than, say, Captain America is or any other patriotic hero. But I think the imperative to get that message out there of this is not a political book is important. And fortunately, our readers have said, hey, it's not a political book. If you read it, I think you'll have a good time and you'll have fun.
Now, another thing that you've done, and I've seen a lot of creators that are hesitant to do this, they want to pick sides. They want to be an Indiegogo creator or they want to be a Kickstarter creator. And, we obviously had the conversation I think you've talked about here on the channel, and you're like, hey, I would like to test our wares out over on Kickstarter. Do you think it's going to alienate people? If
there is a risk, let's say that what people are saying about Kickstarters politics is true. Now, we've had to talk about this before, where my argument is that the politics of Kickstarter honestly are no different than that of Indiegogo. If you notice something that Kickstarter says, you can do a Google search and see if Indiegogo says the same thing. I think that politically they're actually in alignment with each other. But there is this fear that you're not going to last long on Kickstarter, that you're going to get the boot. But here's the thing. If you take a chance on Kickstarter, 50-50, you're either going to stick around and you're going to gain money that you did not have before, or you're going to get kicked out, but you're not going to know until you take that chance. Why let an opinion on a platform determine if you're going to use that platform or not? Why not stand your ground and stay? I would prefer to use a platform and then get kicked off than let fear prevent me from using the platform to begin with. And I think that is the sage advice that you gave me. We've had, like I said, we've talked about this privately and publicly. I mean, you were one of the 4 people I came to ask specifically, do you think we should go to Kickstarter or not? And I think you absolutely said you should. I don't understand why there would be that hesitancy to not do that. So far, I mean, we've been doing very well. Kickstarter is a bigger market, so we've done very well with them, and they've treated us very well as well. Right now, we were approved for beta testing for add-ons, so I had to apply for that. And I think they looked at my previous campaigns, and they said they fulfill on time. They've gone through at least 3 campaigns so far with us with a very good track record. So yeah, let's do it. We're going to approve them for beta testing. So that's what we're going through right now. So we're polite to them. They're polite to us. Everything that we've been doing has been above board and lucrative. So we'll see how long this lasts. Again, in the social media and the tech climate that we're in, nothing is a guarantee. So the only thing that you can do so far is you take the risks on the platforms that you can. Maybe they'll let you keep on playing with them, maybe not, but you're never going to know unless you try.
So you definitely want to get your product out there as widely as possible. Now, if you don't have a YouTube channel, obviously we're friends. You come on my channel, we talk about your projects. I know Just Some Guy definitely got you a very nice signal boost when I think he reviewed some of your books. How do you get the word out there if you have a smaller social media presence? Do you need to go out there and just work harder? Do you need to establish friendships? What kind of networking have you done so that you can get the word out further than maybe the reach that you and Mark have?
This is a really good question. A mutual friend of ours that you actually referred to me to talk, I don't want to say with their name in case they don't want to be known, but this is the piece of advice I gave him. I said, how much money do you have on cover artists? And he said, well, I have like X amount. And I said, what you want to do is you want to hire an A-lister for your cover art. And the reason why is because if you don't have a social media presence, or not many people know of your work, or maybe you're a first-time creator, so no one can know how your product is, you need to get as many eyes on it as possible if you don't have the means to do it through, say, YouTube. So hire the best cover artists that you can, because they're going to put some eyes on it simply because of their own recognition. We did that in the beginning with Black Ops because it was our hard sell. So we hired Dave Dorman, and that was not cheap, but it was worth it because Dave's art speaks for itself. He has enough of a presence and clout and veteranship so that people look at his work and follow it. and they're like, whoa, what is this? Like, Dave hasn't done a cover for a book in, X number of years. Like, what's this about? So we were able to kind of build presences not using YouTube. Now, if you have a personality that's good for entertainment or discussion, or using it as a platform or a megaphone, I think that's great. Use YouTube as any other type of communication tool. But Mark and I are not conversationalists. We can't put out videos on the regular, so we had to find more creative means to get people to look at what we had to offer. And I think a lot of creators are in that bind. You have that it's kind of a myth, but it's also kind of true about the introverted creator or artist. But if you're in that boat, then that's what you're looking at. You're looking at other means of getting eyes on your product that don't involve putting yourself out there through a video or YouTube presence.
So another thing I noticed that you guys did, once you kind of started getting the numbers rolled in, you started adding special art where you're commissioning people for back covers and things. I think, was it Sexy Robots?
Yeah, cute, sexy robots.
Obviously has an enormous social media presence, not just on Twitter, but other platforms. And to get that art, that's a new set of eyes. Maybe it's not a traditional comic book reader like Dave Dorman's, audience, but these are people that maybe read manga and other forms of comic books, and they were able to come in and view the product.
Yeah, and one thing that we're doing for our books, primarily Kamen America, is we're looking at the European and the manga models, because these are two markets where their print sales are doing very well. And obviously in the Western market, you talk about on your channel a lot, where it's a roller coaster ride. People say print is dead, but we have two models that we're looking at that obviously buck that trend. So manga, what they do is they give you a really good deal for your dollar, and the artwork is good. You're guaranteed pretty much in every manga book, really, really good artwork. Even if it's in black and white, it speaks for itself. In the European market, primarily the French, not many people notice, but the French are the second biggest consumers of manga in the world outside of Japan. But the other thing too is that they treat their print medium with a certain sacredness. So when I was living in France and in Europe for roughly 2 years, I noticed that a lot of their books, especially their graphic novels, they were in a hardback format. Now, Doug TenNapel has talked about this with Bigfoot Bill and with Earthworm Jim, which are very pristine, and they come in that kind of bande dessinée album premium format. So that was kind of our goal for 2020, was into 2021, what can we do to kind of mimic the European paradigm? And so with a lot of negotiations back and forth, we got it. We got the price point that we wanted for hardback, where to us, it's going to cost a little more to get it in that format, but it's worth it in the long run if we can show people this is the quality going forward of at least what we have to offer. So as far as like those artists are concerned too, I scour and I scout. I look for a lot of Korean, Japanese, and Chinese artists who have maybe a really awesome Instagram presence, but actually haven't had much print publications. And so we end up helping each other out, because hopefully I can bring them to a Western audience and showcase their art, and then they get the referrals from that. So one big example is like Kafun, Kafun. He's done a lot of artwork for us, but he's relatively unknown in the Western market. He's a very, very popular Japanese artist with a very unique style. So hopefully when people see his artwork through our books, people are like, whoa, this guy's art is amazing. Like, I want to go check him out. But we're trying to do that. We're working synergistically, where hopefully we can use our publication as a platform for other people, where you have, for example, the Dorman scenario I gave before, where we were hopefully utilizing Dorman's artwork to be a megaphone for us. Now we're hopefully being able to sort of play the same game where we're using Kamen America and Black Ops to showcase up-and-coming artists.
Now, you're talking about, obviously print mediums or formats which you can offer the comic book in. There's a lot of, people out there giving their ideas on whether or not you should offer the comic in digital. And I can tell you, as someone in the Philippines, when I see a lot of these crowdfunding projects, it's $20 for the book, but it's $25 for the shipping, to Asia. So it ends up being a $45 comic book. Normally it's about 50 or 70 pages. Not a great bang for your buck, but offering a digital alternative works for a customer like me, to where I want to read it, I want to support it, but once the price gets so high, it gets kind of difficult. I know you guys, piracy is an issue, but you have forged ahead and you are offering your comics in digital. What made you come to that decision, and what went into that?
So I think you've already touched on it. The big drawback to digital is piracy. It just makes it a whole lot easier. But I believe that there is a middle ground between putting your work out there and being able to safeguard against piracy. Now, those safeguards, we've talked about it in private. I don't want to publicize how we safeguard against it, but we do. And that doesn't stop it from happening. Now, I've seen this other argument where it's like, well, it's going to happen, so you might as well just put it out there completely. For example, we get a lot of messages from people, hey, why do you have an expired link? You should just leave the link out there, and so that that way we can access it. And I'm like, well, we can't do that, because if it's an accessible link 24/7, then anyone can get to it. And then the rebuttal is, well, piracy is going to happen anyway, so you might as well do it. Well, that doesn't make any sense. You think about
Embracing piracy. No.
Yeah, well, I was like, murder is on the books as a felony, but that doesn't stop people from killing each other. And the logic is not to legalize murder. Like that's antithetical and illogical. What you want to do is you want to have the safeguards in place to stem it as much as you can. But the ways that we can work around it, a lot of this is private conversations. But in 2021, we are working on a lot of different ways to try and make sure that we can have it be accessible to people like yourself who are remote and pretty much think that digital is the best alternative and probably optimal for a lot of people who use tablets and other devices to view media. One thing that we're doing this time around is we're having a feature where it's password protected. So we don't have any DRM attached to our PDFs, but we do have a password. So basically it's another form of protection. The other thing too is that we have a means by which we can look through the back and see, based on who you are, we can see how many downloads are associated per user. So if we see a spike, 1,000 downloads for one person, we're already like kind of red flagging that and being like, okay, we need to monitor this because we know that there's something going on here. I don't think you have 1,000 devices in your house. So there's ways of looking at that, but I know that like a mutual friend of ours has something that they're working on that I'm excited about. Apps like Comixology and like Shonen Jump, I think that that's the way to go, because you have like a subscription service where the weight of piracy is going to be outweighed by being able to offer a good price with accessibility in the fullest form through a protected means. And I think that is what we're going to be looking into going for in the late of this year, going into next year.
Tim, I really appreciate you coming on here, kind of striking for the record. You do not need a big YouTube channel to be a successful crowdfunder as far as comic books. There are things that you can do. There are strategies that you can put in place. Obviously, you are being very successful, you and Mark Pellegrini specifically, with Kamen America. It seems like that is the flagship of Ninjaink. Congratulations on that. And I have an announcement regarding Mark here in a second, but is there anything else that you want to let the customers or the viewers know about Kamen America 3, maybe to sell them on if they aren't already sold on getting that hardback at the same price?
Sure. Kamen America 3 is up right now on Kickstarter. It'll be up there for 27 days. We do have the reprints of Volumes 1 and Volume 2. They are hardback as well. They're add-ons. So when you go to check out, you can add them on. They're not available on the main page. It's only when you go to check out is where you can add them. But again, our books are 100% complete. We do not launch any pre-orders unless the book is done. So you are guaranteed a book when you order it. You don't have to wait. You don't have to ask yourself if you're going to get your book this year or next year. You know it's coming out. We put out 3 books a year, at least this year. We have Kamen America 3. In the summer, we're going to have the Black Ops Kamen America crossover, and then we conclude the first story arc with Kamen America 4 in the fall. So between 3 titles, if you pick them up at $10 each with $5 shipping, you can pretty much get a whole library of books for under $50 just from us alone. So we hope that you consider taking a look at it. We think it's going to be a worthy investment to get the entertainment that you value. You can look up the reviews online. Like I said, Wes had several videos with me, and then Just Some Guy, I think, has reviewed both volumes of Kamen America. If you want to get a perspective on what we have to offer, but we really hope to see you there. And like I said, we'll be available the next 27 days.
Obviously, Mark is also a friend of the channel. He's been on here several times. And about a year ago, maybe a little bit less, we did a comic book writing 101 video. It's just like some writing tips, and Mark is very good with that. He's very good at explaining, you know, kind of his process and everything. And it's one of those videos that every few weeks I get a comment on. And I don't have a lot of videos. Well, I do have some, but it's one of the ones that I continue to get traffic on, and people continue to comment on it, and they like the content, and they're looking for more stuff like that. Now, we just talked on the Comics Aficionados. Someone asked, hey, where would you go for comic book writing, like tips and tutorials, stuff like that? You know, we had some places to go, but there really wasn't anything that was specifically about comic books on YouTube. So I talked to Mark. We haven't got all the details worked out, but starting next weekend or the weekend after, there's going to be every other week on Sunday. Mark is going to come on. We're going to call it Comic Book 101 with Mr. Pellegrini, and he's basically going to start from, you know, from the idea of what the comic is all the way to the end, to where you're ready to publish it. We're going to go however many episodes it takes, and we're going to talk about comic book writing. You know, how do you do characters, how do you do your outlines, how do you script, working with artists, things like that. And it should be fun. I know obviously you've worked with Mark for a very long time. What do you think? Should people be interested in Comic Book 101 with Mark, Mr. Pellegrini?
They should. Now, I'm going to sell it on you guys for those of you who are like, that sounds really dull and boring. I've heard this several times. No. I was talking to Wes a little bit before the stream, and one reason why I like Mark and I like working with him is that we approach writing and art from a very technical standpoint. You've probably heard writing videos for comics where the advice is, make sure that your character is dynamic. Make sure that your plot is interesting. But the problem with it is that these are very subjective terms. And if you're a struggling writer, you've probably come to a channel because you're thinking, well, I know that, but I don't know how to do it. The good thing about Mark is that he will tell you how. Let me give you a little bit of a tease. One tip that Mark always gives to writers for comics is page turn surprise. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, what's page turn surprise? What it means is if you have a surprise in your book, leave it for the even numbered page, because the surprise has to fit the visual aspect of turning the page and being shocked by what you see on the page turn. Now, you might think like, oh, like that seems like that should be common sense, but it's not. Mark has actually worked and workshopped with several artists who didn't know that. And these artists are trying to break into script writing, and they're like, all right, Mark, I've taken your advice and I've added 3 pages or 4 pages. And Mark is, no, you can't do that. Why not? Well, your page turn surprise is ruined. Instead of your page turn surprise on page 6, it's now on page 7. Well, why does that matter? Well, it matters because you've basically killed your surprise, because they're reading page 6, but they can look at page 7 and see that the surprise is coming. So it's little tips and tricks like this he's going to have as an exclusive to Wes's channel. Now, he's done, I think, 5 videos on his own on the Bunderdome, but no one watches our channel. But
he's never had a moron like me that can actually ask all the questions that someone who was never written a comic book, and all the stuff he's forgotten that he already, you know, answered for himself. You know, get it all out there.
Well, there's no better channel than Thinking Critical, because it is a comic lovers channel. So people are tuning in because they love comics, whereas our channel is more of a smorgasbord of stuff that we do when we're bored, which is why we hardly ever update it. So you're going to get the real meat of the matter when it comes to Thinking Critical. And I'm really happy to hear that you'll partner up so that he can lay it all out. People are going to love it because the tips that he gives are concrete. You can take them to the bank. You can repeat them. You can write them down, and they make sense. They're not subjective. They're very, very, they're very actual in terms of the tips that you're going to get out of them. So I hope that everyone enjoys them.
I think they will. Thank you so much for joining me, Tim, and I will talk to you again soon. Congratulations on all the success with Kamen America Volume 3.
Thank you very much, Wes. Have a good one, and I'll look forward to seeing everyone have a happy new year, 2021. Let's make it the best that we can.